I started at Bee Culture about 3 years ago, and I had never been an editor of anything. I'd written articles and books and things and stuff, but never an editor. So I came into here totally ignorant, which probably most of you would not be surprised about. But I had a great teacher, coordinator, Kathy Summers, who has worked at Bee Culture for 30 plus years, design and layout and, 18 different other things, was so patient with me in teaching and guiding and giving me direction. And so I want to thank her for that. But I also want her to come on up and share with you those 30 years that she experienced and what she learned and how she did it and the challenges she had and the burdens which she overcame, because she's patient, she's nice, but she's tough and she's a hard worker.
I have no PowerPoint. I'm just going to ramble 40 minutes or so. We'll see where it takes us. When Jerry asked me to just get up here and talk about my journey, my story, it really got me thinking and kind of putting all the pieces together. It's 34 years, and I figured out that that's just about half of my life. You can figure out how old I am. But I've spent just about half of my life involved in the bird company, involved in beekeeping, and then I started thinking about all the changes that have taken place. And in this room, which wasn't here when I started, we've had, I don't know how many beekeeping meetings. The Medina County beekeepers met here for a long time, their monthly meetings. We've done this event for several years. And I'm glad that Jerry persevered, because we tried really hard to do this. And as you all, COVID just messed up everything. So I'm glad that he's finally gotten to get this off the ground, because it was a great idea. We knew it was a great idea, and then came COVID. So everything got stopped. But aside from all the beekeeping stuff in this room, I had both of my sons' graduation parties. Him and I had our wedding reception in this room. So it's this room, just this room alone has been a big part of my life. I came here in 1984 for the first time. I got a job through a temporary agency answering the phone across the street. And I did that for about a month, and I like, this is not for me. I don't want to sit and answer the phone. So another opportunity presented itself. The company had come up with doing a fundraising kind of project. I don't know what else to call it. Project. So I did that for a few months, and then I left. I had 2 boys, and stayed connected because of friends that I had. And show of hands, how many of your lives have turned out exactly like you thought it was? I didn't have. We have a friend who's a pilot. And from the time he was 5 years old, he knew he wanted to be a pilot. He was a pilot. That's what he did all his life. And now he's retired, but he's still teaching people how to fly. He teaches small planes. He took him recently up in his glider. He teaches people how to do gliders. We have another friend who, at 10 years old, he said he wanted to be a doctor, and then he's been a doctor all his life. I never had that clear-cut vision of something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. That's not how I was wired. So most of the things that have come along in my life have been things that were just plopped in front of me. And often I felt like I didn't have a choice. Somebody said I could do this, and so I'll try and figure it out. And that was my goal raising my kids even. The line I used with them all the time was, we'll figure it out. When there was drama, when there was, how kids are, there's always drama. And I would say, well, we'll figure it out. So I had a dear friend that was still working here after I'd gone, and I had these 2 little boys. And I babysat for before and after. And she came one day to pick up Jason, and she said, they need somebody at the company just to type. And that was a skill I had learned so that I knew I could find a job. I could type 90 words a minute. It was just a skill that it was a gift. So typing I could do. It's a gift. So at first I told her, no, I'm not interested. I at that time I thought this is going to be my life, just raising these two boys. I'm okay with that. She came back several more times. It's just a couple days a week, and it'll be okay. It's fun, and their dad worked at night, so finally, well, and her line that she used is our famous. She said, "You'll be working with this guy named Kim. He's kind of different, but he's nice." Okay. And my short time here, the first stint, I knew Brad, and Brad was very young at that time. I think still in college, around, and so I knew a little about the magazine, but I didn't work on it. Didn't really have much of a connection. So when I came back here just to type, and it was 4 hours a day, a couple days a week, sat me in a corner, and almost right where we are sitting now, their company had their own print shop, square little building, maybe about as big as this room, not much bigger. And we had a wonderful lady, Sue, who did all the printing. She printed honey labels. She printed all the forms that we used. She printed all of our labels, candle boxes. She printed everything. She also was involved in the magazine in that she would do pictures for us, and so she had some involvement in the magazine on that one. So they put me in a little corner in that print shop, and in front of an Apple II SE. And some of you remember, the screen was this big. The screen was about the size of a half-page ad. I didn't know how to turn it on. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know computers at all. So somebody turned it on and showed me the keyboard, and they were working on a book at the time by Richard Taylor. And I don't know, do many of you remember Richard Taylor? Read about him, know about him? He was great. So that's what I did. I just typed. Do this. So for a couple of years, that's what I did. I back and forth, just part-time. And then the lady who was doing the layout and design for the magazine at that time got pregnant. And they said, okay, she's going to be gone for a while, so you're going to have to do what she does. Like, okay, I don't really know what she does. So you scurry along, and she's teaching me little bits and pieces, do this, do this. Again, instead of saying, I don't know how to do that, I was open to saying, okay, figure it out. Well, she ended up leaving early because of problems, health issues. And so there I was, and I as I started to think about this, I thought, I don't know how I got through this. I don't know how I learned how to do this quick enough to actually get a magazine out. But we did. Somehow we did. At that time, everything is digital now. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the way the printing business and the publishing business has changed is so incredible. A lot of changes. But at this time, everything was by hand. Everything. The ads we had to cut and put on the page. Photos we had to have Susie do what they call a stat. So you had to measure the photo. You had to crop the photo. You had to tell her exactly how you wanted that photo. Because if you messed that up and she had to do it over again, she got a little tested. So you had to, you had a lot more boundaries. Now you can take pictures and manipulate them 1,000 times before you decide that's the way you want it. So there was that challenge. And the October 1990 issue was the first one that I did by myself. The week of the deadline, Tim's daughter got sick in Wisconsin, and so he left. And I was like, oh, okay, these people think I know what I'm doing. They've just left me here. So we did. Sue's help, and mostly Susie was moral support. She was fantastic. Again, her attitude also was, we'll get it done. So it took me a lot of years before I ever went back and really looked at that October 1990 to see just how bad it was. It wasn't too bad. The next month, at the week of deadline, Kim, who almost never gets sick, got really sick. Was out for a week. And so again, it's like, what is wrong with these people that they keep just leaving me here thinking I know what I'm doing? So that was kind of the jumping into the fire. It's like, okay, I guess we're okay. Well, then Cindy decided she wasn't coming back. And so nowhere in those few months did I think I wanted a career or I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. I'll just do this until she comes back, and then I'll go back to my part-time typing in the corner. Well, she decided she wasn't. And Sue, the day that Cindy told her that, Sue was like, okay, Kath, the job is yours. I'm not sure, Brad, that I ever filled out an application. I thought about that too. I thought, it just landed there. So many things, that's just the way my life has rolled. It's a lot of things just plopped in. And being willing to say, okay. So again, I stayed part-time for a while, and somewhere in the early to mid-90s is when they were still making beekeeping equipment at this time. We had the factory, we had the lumber yard. It was an amazing place to be. It still is, but different, amazing. And somewhere in that mid-90s is when they switched and started just some candles. Kept the magazine, kept the books, kept ABC. I've worked on 3 issues of the ABC and XYZ. The first one, just a tiny bit, again, of just typing some copy. Then the 41st and the 42nd, him and I did together. I did the layout design. That was hard. Those were hard jobs. It's 1,000 pages of layout design. It's incredible. The changes that we went through as far as the magazine. Well, first, when I finally got bold enough to start to say, maybe I could just get a little bit bigger screen, a bigger monitor to look at, so I could see a whole page. Curtis, I think at the time, somebody made the decision, well, we're going to switch you to PC. Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay. And so here we went again, another set of changes to have to learn. And I had no formal education. Not printing, not publishing, didn't know anything about beekeeping. And somewhere in that same time period, early 90s, I think is the first time that I went into a bee suit, into the hive. And so it's been that long that I've been an actual beekeeper and love it. And that part's wonderful. And as I started to think again about the changes and just the things that Nina showed here, in some parts of beekeeping it's changed a lot, but some things haven't changed much at all. Boxes are the same. The smoker's basically the same that we use. The veils and the suits, everybody keeps trying to come out with a better one, bigger, better. But for the most part, the way we do our just day-to-day beekeeping is still about the same. I got here I've always been a Varroa time beekeeper. I never knew beekeeping before there was Varroa. So probably most of us in this room, it's always been Varroa. So we've always been dealing with that. We're still dealing with it. We're still fighting it. People are still trying to find out a way to get rid of it. Mostly we've just figured out how to live with it, I think. And maybe that's going to be our life. Maybe that's the same as COVID. Just got to learn to live with it. It's never going to go away now. We're just going to live. So that part looked at and I thought, well, that hasn't changed much. The printing and the publishing, that's been amazing. I think it was also around the mid-90s that John decided to take away the print labels. And he said that he thought it was an antiquated word that just didn't fit. A lot of the younger people coming up didn't know what it meant, so that. And boy, we got letters, we got email, we got letters and phone calls, and there still are a bunch of you that still say Quincy's. It's just, that was the standard. So that was a big change. All of the software that I had to learn along the way, that is just kept changing. So I would find classes, I would find books, I would find seminars to go to. Again, just trying to keep up with all of it. That's just constant. Emma took my place as layout design, has a great advantage in that she actually went to school to learn how to do layout design. So she came here knowing what she wanted to do, and she actually knew how to do it. I didn't have to teach her very much. Not sure she'll ever get into beekeeping. She doesn't really like bugs. But the beekeeping just kind of took over. That was another thing that I could have never imagined in my life. I didn't have a grandfather or an uncle, or you meet a lot of people like that. Say, oh my God, somebody was. That's how I got into it. Nobody in my family was ever. Nothing, knowledge. I'm not sure I even ever ate honey until I was an adult. It just wasn't in my mother's realm of cooking. It just wasn't something that we did. The other part of this journey has been the extra things that we have gotten involved in the beekeeping industry. And because the Root Company was like the industry standard on beekeeping for so long, they supported everything we did and allowed us to do these other things while still doing the magazine. And I think one advantage that Kim had is that when he started, he had John Root as his mentor, and John was still pretty involved in the industry. John was the first chairman of the Eastern Apiculture Society. A lot of people know that, but he was still very involved in the industry. So he immediately started dragging Kim to meetings, to the Tri-County meeting in Worcester. I think it was one of the first meetings that Kim went to, John. And then BAS. And John flew. He had his own plane, so he and Kim went on many adventures going to all these meetings. And as John started to get out of it, Kim just became more and more involved, and then started to involve us. And up until the early 90s, I didn't know any of these people in person that wrote for the magazine. I didn't know Jim too. I didn't know Larry. I didn't know any of those people. But I knew about them from the stories that they sent in each month to the magazine. And that was the thing too. Emma, you'll love this. Every article that came had to be typed. Jim would come in the dead of night sometimes and slip his articles in we had those louvered windows on the shop. Come in on Monday and there'd be papers on the floor with his articles. So that all had to be typed. But I hadn't actually met any of them in person. So in 1994, Kim came in one day, came and sat in the office, and he said, we're going to go to EAS, Pennsylvania, because next year we're going to do it. Again, I don't know what that means either. Going to this big meeting, we took books to sell. And as time got closer and I started to see who was going to be there, I was really prepared to be very intimidated. All these people had PhDs behind them. Dewey Karen, Larry, Jim, and the people that were there, it was incredible. It's the first time I met, were you there, Sue? I think it's the first time I met you. Yeah. First time I met Jim and Ann Harmon, Clarence Collison, just all of these people there. And I think I just sat at the table with my mouth open. And all were so nice. That was the thing. PhD didn't matter at the end of it. All of these people Beekeepers, they love beekeeping, they love beekeepers, and it was the most amazing week. And it was the first time Jack Thomas from Hand Lake was the first person to walk up to the table selling books and say to me, "We love what you do." And I just kind of, I didn't know that. I mean, no, I'm just doing a job here up to this point. It's just, it's a job. It's fun. It's close to home. But when he said that, and just being there that week and having people pick up the magazine, pick up the books, and say how much they loved, it changed. It changed something. It's like just people love this magazine too. They have for 150 years now. And that really just cemented in me that, wow, this is a really cool job. This is an opportunity that not a lot of people have to say they love a magazine. So that really cemented it in my heart and my mind. And the next year we did the EAS meeting in Worcester in 95. And Jim was a big part of that because we did it in Worcester on the campus. And that was a lot of work. It was a tremendous amount of work that I wasn't sure I knew that we as a team had the capacity to do, to pull this off. It was a lot. It's a whole week of activities, planning for 6 or 7 hundred. How do you feed them? Where do you put them? So that was another just a grand experience, and that really sucked us. Kim and I. Well, Kim was already a lot involved with EAS, but that sucked me right into EAS, and I started shortly after that doing the journal for, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16 years for EAS, and then Kim became chairman after Duke. And so then we were really involved because he was the chairman, and so you just get drug along to whatever he's doing, you're involved in it also. So after he was chairman, the next guy who took over asked me to be his vice chairman. So for 7 years, I helped. Well, my job was to help plan the conferences around it. And somewhere in my life, I became the lady who feeds people. You know, I can feed 700 people. I can figure that out, and that seems to be another gift. I feed people other places too. Okay, there's a gift I didn't know I had. So that's been our journey. It's just getting involved in all of these different things that's centered around me. And the most incredible part, and part of that's today, just being with you guys, is the people that we have in our lives and opportunities we have. Sometimes I think, somebody someday is going to go, you guys owe us a lot. Treated special. Kim and I have had such opportunities. We've been invited to England several times. We've been to New Zealand. We've been to Northern Ireland. We've been all over the United States. And most of the time, somebody else paid for it. We're going to pay you to come here, and wow. So we've been blessed, lucky, whatever word you want to stick on it here. But we have had an incredible life here as a result of being at the Root Company, as a result of landing here. Again, was it accident? Was it fate? Was it a higher power? However you want to look at how I got here, how Kim got here. In part of the first, when I first worked here, part of the advantage was that I lived about 2 blocks this way. My 2 boys. That made it really an easy choice to walk. And I can be wherever my kids are if they need. I wasn't in downtown Cleveland. I wasn't in downtown Akron. If something happened at school, if somebody got in trouble, I could be there in 5 minutes. So that was a big advantage. And so my 2 boys have just grown up with the Root Company. It's been a part of their life. My younger son was a year old when I started back. He's 35. Jerry, as he told you, he started a couple years ago. I think I think there was a mentality for a while that Kim would just stay here forever. That he would just die here. Just throw a blanket over him or something, and But you start to look at, as much as we love this, we really want to retire. We want to retire before we're so old and crippled that we can't do anything else, because there's other things we love to do, gardens and plants and just a bunch of stuff. So we kind of started, having this plan, letting Brad know that, okay, in a couple of years, he's going to retire. And then I said, okay, I'll stay a couple years after that, so it makes the whole transition. So you start to think, okay, take Tim's place. And he said to me one day, a lot of years, several years, how would you feel about working with Jerry? Jerry's a pretty nice guy, so that might be okay. And so then he kind of approached Jerry about it. And one day, I don't know, probably 3 years ago or so, Jerry called me. We just chat, just you and I. Asked me a bunch of questions about the job. We just had this wonderful conversation. And so as hard as it was to think about not working with Kim, joined at the hip for all these years, we knew that there had to be this transition. Jerry seemed like the really logical person. He's been in the industry. He knows all the people that we know. He's a great guy. He's a great friend. We started to kind of talk about it. Jerry came here, and it's been bumpy. I mean, shortly after he got here, there came COVID. It started in December, right? 2019, March. So none of his journey has turned out quite like he thought it was going to either. And that just, we had a great team in place, Gene and Amanda, and they were wonderful. But here came COVID, so we got all split up, and everybody's working from home, and it just got all convoluted. But because of the industry changing so much, and because of everything being digital, we made it work. We got the magazine out just fine. So we did that for probably close to a year because of just different schedules and all of that. And so then, now it's my turn. So December 31st was my last day. And again, it was a little bit hard, but at the same time, it felt right. It felt ready for that transition, ready to go into other things. I've had a long list going of things I wanted to do when I retired, none of which pay money. Kim has found things to do after he retired that actually pay money. Podcasts, writing, and all of that. All of the things I want to do, nobody's going to pay money for. So, a little bit of sadness, but also a lot of anticipation of just getting to do other things. Emma started in about September. So I had 3 months with her to teach her as much as I could. She knew the fundamentals, she knew the software better than I, because she's had formal education. So off we went. January and February were wonderful. And just watching the snow and doing the jigsaw puzzles, reading books, and just waiting for the garden to come. And then in March, I did something that I've never done before. I fell. And I smashed my left shoulder. And it's not even an exciting story. I just fell. I tripped, I slipped, I'm not sure. I was at church feeding people and getting cleaned up. Had my jacket on to go home and slipped right on my shoulder. So there went all of that plan. Never hurt your shoulder. It's like the worst thing in the world. There's too many moving parts. Still working on it. Still not. So March, April, and May, we just were we didn't do anything but think about the shoulder. God bless him. He had to do everything. Suddenly he had to do everything. He had to put the toothpaste on my tooth. I couldn't even do that. Like, suddenly you're just helpless. Like, how did this happen? I've never fallen. I've never broken a bone. I'm not typically a clumsy person. But there it was. That was our next journey that we got put on. That wasn't anything that anybody wanted or planned or anticipated. So for 3 months, really, yeah, 3 months, Kim just took care of it. That's what we did. And then you start physical therapy. In spite of that, we have enjoyed the summer. I have, especially being able to be outside, being able to just sit in the garden and pull weeds and do bees and the garden has been amazing. But again, never, none of, none of, none of the journey has gone like that. So for all of my adult life, I've had to just learn to be flexible. And we don't know what's coming next. Yeah, we're still dealing with this and got other things to deal with as far we've mastered the transportation to physical therapy. We've become way too familiar with Cleveland Clinic and that monstrous facility that it is. So suddenly you have a life that you never anticipated. Doctors and physical therapists and x-rays and tests and go here and do this, that, and remember to do those exercises every day. Just nothing like what we expect. So I guess beware. But this has been great, and it's great that we're just about 7 miles down the road, and Kim still writes occasionally for the magazine. One thing that Jerry said before he started is, we don't want you and Kim to go away. Still be part of this. So that's been wonderful. I have great friends here, so I see them, some of them about once a week. We still get together. We're still like family. The one thing that popped in my mind about the fruit company in general is there are a lot of people gone through in my lifetime here that have been here forever. Something happens. I don't know. There's a spell that's cast on you. Because we've got people, we just not too long ago we were in this room for a retirement party for a guy, 47 years. This was his only job. Got out of high school, he came to work at the fruit company. And there's been a bunch of people like that. People that knew Brad when he was a baby. They've just been here their whole entire lives. And it's not perfect. There's bumps and warts just like any place, but there's this sense of family somehow that I hope grabs a hold of Emma and Jen. I hope it does. We don't know what their future holds. But there are just a lot. There's this cohesive group of people. There's the others that come and go that are new and they don't stay long, but there's a fairly large group of people that stay here forever. And is that because they're content? Because it's easy? Probably some of all, but I think also there's this sense of family. Know that it's a family. It started with AI. We were lucky enough, Kim and I, to know Brad's grandfather, Alan, that he mentioned. He would come in the print shop almost every day, and he had to move stuff off a chair, Kim's office, find a place to sit. He would just sit down and talk, say, "Tell me what's going on." And John, even after he retired, he has stayed in contact with Kim. Reads the magazine every month. Brad told me he still reads. John has some health issues right now, but he still keeps touch. He still keeps his hand. And he would send us compliments, but he would send us tweets also if there was something in there that maybe he didn't believe. Like maybe I wouldn't have done that, or maybe I wouldn't have said that way. Watch out for that. So you always knew he was watching. And John used to have these little pieces of paper, just about like this. They weren't 3x5 cards, they were little pieces of paper that you would write notes on. And I still have some of those. Kim, I think, still has some. The first thing that was ingrained in me on this little piece of paper, honeybee, 2 words. always and forever, because John Wood said so. Beehive, one word, because John Wood said so. Doesn't matter what the rest of you think. He said that honeybee is 2 words. He said that beehive is one. Yes, sir. So it's, again, I think it's because it's been this family and because we know so much about AI. We have his history, his sons, all the children down. I think that's why there's this. And like I said, across the street, there's a group of about 4 or 5 ladies that I see every week, and we're like family, bonded to each other, love each other. We are there for each other. And during this whole shoulder episode, we were intensely reminded how much we were loved. Food showed up, people showed up. What do you need? What can we do? That always kind of humbles you. That situation where suddenly you can't do anything for yourself, and people just show up and take care of you. And it just really, really solidifies that in your mind. I was just thinking before I came up here that, and this, unfortunately for both Kim and I, none of our parents were alive, really got into this whole thing. My parents were both gone, his were both gone. So they never really saw what we got to do. Just kind of sad. I know my dad he would have just been amazed. He was not a highly educated person, but he read everything he could find. He was always trying to learn new things, and I know he would have been absolutely just blown away by what we have got to do. It's just been an amazing journey. Hopefully, we'll keep involved in bee culture on some level for years anyway, and hopefully I won't hurt myself anymore, and I can go on and do the things that we do. It's my story.